Coming up on this week's episode of The Clinch, we look ahead to Africa's first major event of the year at EFC 57, and what a cracker it is. Fight maker Graeme Cartmell joins me in conversation. Africa's first openly gay fighter reveals how she dealt with last year's challenges and her preparations for a kick-ass 2017. Shana Power welcomes Kumo to Fight Fit Militia. And we find out what plans the global governing body has for African MMA. Alistair Pettitt from the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation joins me in a moment. So welcome to The Clinch. Well, I've talked on the show before about the importance of supporting your local amateur MMA scene, since a lot of fighters working their way up the sport often rely upon the lower tier organisations to build up a decent record, and they can't really do that in empty halls and silent gymnasiums. So what is the global governing body of MMA doing about it? Joining me from the UK is the Director of International Events at IMMAF, the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, Alistair Pettitt. Alistair, thanks for joining us, mate. Just give us an overview of what IMMAF does, will you?
Yeah, hi Simon, thanks for having me on. In short, basically IMMAF work to regulate MMA worldwide and promote international amateur championship events. That is it in short, really. That's what we're here to do. And we're doing that now.
So thanks to IMMAF's efforts, how far are we away from Olympic recognition? Because I know that's something you guys have been pushing for, haven't you?
There is no definitive timeline with Olympic recognition. It could be a short process or it could be a long process. There is no timeline on that. So there's different hurdles you have to meet, box ticking exercises if you would like to call them. So part of the pathway that we're on at the moment for the Olympic recognition is one, we're trying to achieve sport accord recognition. And to be part of Sport Accord, you need to, as a prerequisite, be a signatory code of WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency. And then also we have to have a calendar of international events, which is where I figure into the picture. So that's kind of where we're at with the Olympic recognition. We're going through that journey of, ticking the boxes to get that way, basically to become a signatory of not just the WADA code but the Sport Accord membership.
So what's been your involvement in African MMA then? You ran the African Open event here in August or September sometime last year, didn't you? How did that go? And what else did you guys get up to when you were here?
Okay, so just before the African Open, we actually came back this time last year, to be fair, January 2016. And just to go back on your point of the Olympic recognition, one of the things we do is IMMAF at the minute is we've got about 60 plus member federations which fit under our umbrella of affiliate federations. One of those is obviously the South African Federation. So we came out there last year, myself, there was Mark Goddard as CEO, Denzel White, and one of our colleagues, Honor Rivara from My Next Match. To look at bringing in the pathways to the sport. So one of those we did an officials course, which Mark Goddard led, and that was to upskill and to see what the talent pool of referees and judges are within the South African continent. So on the back of that, while we were there, we came back in to do an event which was the All African Open at the end of August and the beginning of September, which was unique. It was a first, bringing an international event to that. We had countries such as India, Sweden there, plus the South African nations, and we also had in attendance athletes didn't compete, but they came to look, and delegates from the Congo Republic. So that was really good. It was a first there. The event was held over 3 days, and it was an eye-opener, especially for the South African community, to see what an international event looks like on their home soil. So that's what we did. That's what we had last year.
Yeah, I was just asking, what you got up to when you were here in 2016. But let's move on to your plans for 2017. But the sound of your answer, it sounds as if IMMAF was just getting its feet wet in Africa. So what are your plans for 2017? Because I know you've got a good relationship with one of our best referees, Ferdy Basson. Are you looking to run more courses here next year or this year? And is the IMMAF African Open going to be even bigger and better in 2017?
Yeah, definitely going to be bigger. To answer your question, yeah, Ferdy is one of the key people within in the IMMAF framework. He's been to, I think he's been to the past two of our World Championships, which we've had over in Las Vegas. And he's kind of our ears and eyes on the ground to make sure that our progression schemes, our referee skills and that are being adhered to, and the officials in South Africa can use 30 as a point of reference or anything on that side. Going back to this year, yes, we're coming back out the end of August again, probably in Johannesburg. We're just finalising the final details, but the dates is set. We're just looking at the venues. But like you were saying, yes, we did wet our feet, so to speak, in the African continent. But on the back of that now, we've got European countries that are going to be coming across. We might be having some of the Asian continent countries and the Americas coming to compete. So we're looking for more participation from the different countries, which therefore will give more athletes a chance to compete. But more importantly, the African continent, we're getting more countries coming from Africa. So we should see the guys from Cameroon down there, Mauritius, and the guys from the Congo. So I'm looking forward to that side of thing. But what we've got going on at IMMAF this year, I mean, we've got the European Open Championships coming up next month in Sofia in Bulgaria. Then we move straight over into June, where we're over in Singapore for the Asian Open. And then, before we know it, a couple of months later, we're back down with you guys there in Africa, and then we finish the year. We've just seen a recent announcement this past week where IMMAF have granted the hosting rights to the Bahrain Mixed Martial Arts Federation to host the IMMAF World Championships in November. So that's the calendar at the minute, and that's how Africa fits in the third quarter.
Well, you run events all the way around the world, Alistair, and we certainly appreciate all the efforts IMMAF are doing to grow the sport in South Africa. But so what's your perception of the quality of South African MMA compared to other countries you run events in?
Yeah, okay. So the quality is really good. You can see that from a current world champion that you've got there in South Africa, in Rudy Roots, who took the gold medal in Vegas back in 2016. So you've got a current world championship there, champion, should I say there. You guys competed really well and basically took second in the medal table when we did the African Open down there. But regarding opportunities, I think what needs to happen is it's down to the gyms, the local federations, to ensure that as many of these African and particularly South African athletes get an opportunity to compete on the IMMAF platform. And on the back of that, you can see moving forward how being on the IMMAF platform and the exposure you get from that opens up more opportunities on a global scale. So you take Jose Torres, for example. Jose, two-time world champion from the USA, then has gone and signed a professional contract with Titan FC. He's currently their flyweight pro champion, and he's potentially on his way to the UFC. You can say the same for Will Starks, again, two-time world champion, moved over to Titan. And then if you're looking at other promotions around the world, they're all looking at the IMMAF talent. So you've got likes of James Gallagher, who competed in the IMMAF World Championships. He's fighting in Bellator. His teammate, Sinead Kavanagh, again, she went from the UK promotion BAMA onto Bellator. We've had females from Iceland go straight into Invicta from competing through the IMMAF platform. And from 2014, we had a gentleman from the Italian Federation, which then is now in the UFC. So the opportunities are massive. IMMAF's becoming kind of like the, how would I word it, the spotlight for all the other global professional promotions to look for the next generation of talent. It's becoming basically a talent pool. So to answer your question, the opportunities are vast, but these athletes have got to take them and get onto the IMMAF platform and work with their national federations, be affiliated to their federations, go on to the national trials that they do and earn themselves, via their national trials, a spot on the IMMAF calendar of events. And as I've touched on earlier, we've got the European Open coming up, we've got an Asian Open, back down with you guys, obviously, for the African, and then we accumulate that at the end of the year with the World Championships. So the opportunities are vast. These events are open, and when we mean by open, they're open to any federation to put their athletes through. So it's just down to the athletes to take the opportunities, and if they're really serious on making a career in MMA, really stay in the amateur pool, build your skill sets up in the amateurs. It doesn't matter if you win, lose or draw. Get onto the IMMAF platform, and that's where the exposure will come and the opportunities will come on the back of that.
Yeah, and we'll have that address at the bottom of the screen right now if anyone wants to get hold of IMMAF in terms of South African combat sports, and you can get through to IMMAF's portal there. So forgive my last question being a bit indulgent, Alistair, but as a fellow Leicester lad, will the Foxes be relegated this season?
My prediction probably on that question, Simon, would be we win the Champions League and then get relegated.
Well, the main card for EFC 57 still doesn't seem locked down after a whole host of changes. Africa's biggest MMA promotion, the Extreme Fighting Championship, kicks off their year right here in Johannesburg on the 4th of March. And boy, what a cracker it is. Here to talk about the fights is the EFC matchmaker, Graeme Cartmell. Graeme, we were supposed to do this interview a few days ago, weren't we? And there was a whole bunch of changes. Give us a background of some of the reasons behind the scenes of what's going on over the changes to the main card, particularly.
So we've had Martin van Staden and Leon Maynard on the fight card now after quite a lot of replacements. So the first thing we had to replace was the 2 title fights. Unexpectedly, Boyd Allen pulled out of the fight against Iga Kabesa. He's training in the United States at the moment and subsequently damaged his hand. So he called me at about 11 o'clock on about 2 weeks ago, Tuesday, said, I'm out, can't do it. We pulled him from that card and replaced him with Danny Henry, somebody that Iga's fought before, but we think it'll be a great matchup, and Danny's really gotten back on a roll, so he's definitely the guy to put there against Iga. Then we looked at JP Base, who was supposed to fight in Kazimola Zulu, and subsequently the very next day after Boyd had pulled off, Zulu Boy got hit by a car. He was running in the road and got hit by a car.
Wow.
I mean, I rushed to hospital, made sure the kid was okay, eventually took him to a specialist to make sure nothing was seriously damaged. Came back that nothing was severe, but, you know, he's in pain. It's going to take a long chunk out of his fight camp to actually prepare for JP. So we're going to keep the Zulu Boy fight. We think that that's the right fight to do right now. So we're going to push that out to May. Then we've had Martin van Staden and Leon Maynard pegged for this card as kind of a replacement. Amazing fight. Yeah. Just to make it clear, it is being pushed to May. But there was a massive issue with myself and the management on getting this guy signed up and committed to the fight. We'd originally agreed to the fight, everything was cool. And I think by virtue of Leon's long-standing relationship with EFC and always stepping up to the plate, he decided, listen guys, I've put myself out there too many times and taken short notice fights, because it is a short notice fight against Martin. Please, can we do this in May? So we decided, let's push it to May. We thought it would be better for everybody. And so we're moving that fight card, that to the May fight card. But we have a cool replacement for Martin. So Martin is still going to fight on May as well.
Oh, still fighting?
Still fighting on May.
Who have you got?
So I got hold of a very cool manager overseas who we've been dealing with for a long time, and he said, I got this boy, Christian Holly. He's been trying to get him on my books for a long time. I haven't had the space, and the opportunity came up and we jumped at it. So Christian Holly's 10-3, sorry. He's fought all over the world. He beat Artem Lobov, who's currently in the UFC. Wow. Yeah. We all know Artem.
Great fighter.
Great fighter. So you can just imagine the caliber that we've got, and that's going to go up against Martin. He's going to go up against Martin van Staden.
Okay, and still the Leon fight is still on for mine. That's great news. So let's have a look at the main event then. It's a featherweight belt is up for grabs. It's the second time that Danny and Iga have fought, and it's the second defence for Iga. That first time they fought, I mean, Danny was outclassed on the ground, wasn't he? What makes you think this will go differently?
It'll be a totally different fight. It always is. Rematches are totally different. You must understand, I don't think Danny understood the level of Iga's wrestling, and he's definitely gone back to his camp, which is highly regarded overseas and in Europe as one of the best fight camps in the world. Dinky Ninjas, they've produced the guys like Stevie Ray in the UFC.
Yeah, and James Doolan is the coach.
James Doolan's the coach, really good coach. He's gone back and said, okay, how do we redo this thing? You know, I messed up this way, how are we going to redo it? And I know that he's going to come back with a different game plan. My question is, has Iga changed? You know, once you fought Iga, you kind of understand what his level is. Has he been pushing at the same pace? He's been preparing for a guy like Boyd, and maybe his mindset is different. Also, he might be overlooking Danny and going, oh, I've beaten him already. Why do I want to fight this guy again? I know that's actually something that's sitting in his mind. Yeah. That's going to make a big difference for him. Of
course, Iga's been training with Brendan Katz and has been down with Chris Bright in Port Elizabeth as well. So he's going to be very focused to keep this belt.
The guy that I'm actually really excited about Iga training with was Zulu Boy.
Yeah.
Zulu Boy came back from the States, been training with Sujudo, been really picking up that wrestling game.
Yeah.
that striking game of Igor's must be something to behold at this stage if he's been training with him. So I'm really excited to see that fight.
Yeah, he says he's going to knock Danny out, didn't he? He said that yesterday. And we know that Danny's got a great boxing background, so that should be interesting. The co-main event is a cracker. You know me, Graeme. I'm not a big heavyweight fan.
Can I just interject here? It's what's after this that's also really exciting. So I love the fight, but there's a legacy here.
Yeah, but Danny Henry might come and completely ruin your fantasy.
How? If him and Boyd fight for the second time, I can't wait for that fight.
Yeah.
As much as I want to see Igor and Boyd fight. Because Danny is the only man to really show up Boyd Allen.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of, when Boyd takes that fight, if he gets to fight that fight, it's going to be a different Boyd stepping in there with a lot more anger and a lot more intensity.
So let's move on to the co-main event then, Graeme. You know I've never been a fan of the heavyweight division, but last year, that heavyweight division was absolutely on fire, wasn't it? It's Elvis Moyo against Mike Vermeulen.
We've kind of stacked all the chips in one fight card, put all the guys on there.
But like, if you look at Elvis Moyo, the way he fought Andrew Fancel at Sun City last year at UFC 54, he won lots of fans. Great takedown defense. The sickest jab.
It was right up until the end. I said to myself, I was looking at the doctor thinking, if he doesn't stop this fight, I'll be surprised, because Andrew was taking so much punishment, and he knew that. Going into that round, he must have looked at Elvis and thought, I can't take punishment like this.
Yeah. And
he put on the hurt.
But it was his takedown defense that Elvis' takedown defense was absolutely fantastic.
Phenomenal.
But then you got Mike Vermeulen. He's on a 4-fight tear up the division. It's going to be a test of chins, isn't it, Graeme?
Mike isn't the most technical guy, and that's what I like about this fight. He wars his way through every fight. He makes his presence known. He owns the cage. He gets in there, gets into the hexagon, and he makes you feel like, oh my goodness, you're going to see a massive war. And that's scary for anybody, because we know that Elvis kind of draws people into his style of fight and makes it a very pensive, he slows down the pace and likes to keep the jab at bay and likes to drag out the rounds. Mike's not going to do that. He's going to get in there, stare at Elvis and run straight at him. And what the result is from that is going to be either a knockout or something special.
Yeah, but you say that, but then Mike Vermeulen's coming off a first-round submission win over Tomasz Kowalkowski, isn't it?
True. Who saw that coming?
No, who saw it coming? But how's he going to get past Elvis Moyo's jab? That is the sickest jab in the history of African combat sports, isn't it?
It is, but sometimes it takes somebody who doesn't see that as a problem to really upset the apple cart. He might have not taken that into account. I don't think Mike has sat there with his team and said, okay, we have to do this and this and this. It is, Mike, prepare, get in there, switch it on, go. That's the way he operates.
Yeah.
That's the way he fights.
But there's another heavyweight bout on the card, isn't there? You've got Tony Mustard coming back against local favourite Vessel Mostert.
Mustard versus Mostert.
Mustard is a must-win fight for either. But Tony Mustard was very upset. He lost on debut last year. He really wants to make amends. But you've got Vessel Mostert, former IMMAF heavyweight champ of the world, undefeated in the EFC. It's also going to be a cracking explosion in the heavyweight division, isn't it?
I think it's going to be cool. It's such a cool fight to watch, because you've got Mustard who went on I think it was a 6-fight tear in the UK and obliterated everybody.
Knocked out everyone, didn't he, in the first round?
Came here, hey, sea legs, this is a different country. We're 3,000 meters up. We're one of the highest countries in the world, or cities in the world, Johannesburg. So altitude is a factor. All these things play on you when you have to travel to fight. It's very difficult for these guys. I think he'll be used to it now. And him coming in with a more confident attitude, because he was very stoic and quiet the first time we met. I think he's going to be different. And Mostert, he knows every time he fights, it's one step closer to being on that doorstep of a belt or that accolade of being able to be a contender, and he's there.
Yeah, it's a fantastic fighter, exciting fighter, one of the best you've got in the division. Kicking off the big show, it's another classic FFM CIT war, isn't it? Between Lyle Karam and Temba Garimbo. When you've got a hungry Temba Garimbo, I think he's pretty unstoppable, but he's coming up against an extremely well-rounded and also undefeated Lyle Karam. What's he going to do?
Look, I've heard from Karam's side, Karam's team, that he's the next big thing, and I kind of believe them, because they did this with Trickus, and look, the fruit, it paid off, didn't it? The only thing is, Temba has fire in his belly now that I haven't seen in a long time. He took a little bit of a break, and we've since managed to get him back in action. He's ready to rock. I think he's fit, he's strong. He rocked Leon, he put Leon in a world of hurt, and I think his inexperience meant that Leon was able to capitalize. Those years of fighting, Leon's been able to kind of remain composed in that moment when he got rocked. And I think Themba is coming out with the strength.
What else are you looking forward to UFC 57, Graeme?
I'm going to announce a fight that I'm looking forward to that I haven't put out there yet. Gordon Rudman's coming back.
At UFC 57?
Yeah.
4th of March in Johannesburg.
That's it. He's the guy to call. He's like a Cerrone. I phoned him up and said, Gordy, I need you on this one. I want some really exciting action. I'd put him to fight Georgi Georgiev in Durban.
Yeah.
And we just pushed that fight forward to March.
Since you're here, Graeme, let's look forward a bit more after UFC 57. Yeah. You've got Dave Mazzani against Don Madge in April in Cape Town, which I can't wait for. But
that card is unreal. That card is shaping up to be...
Potts and Etherington.
Potts and Etherington. We've got Sylvester Chipfunbu and Abdul Hassan. We're going to put... Ishad Sayed is going to be on that fight card.
Really?
And it depends on who... We're trying to negotiate with two parties at the moment. We've got Gareth Bursky, and we might drop Tumisang Madiba down in bantamweight and get him against Ishad. And that could be insane. Francois Groenewold's going to be on that fight card. I've got an international coming out to face him. I don't want to announce that yet.
Okay.
And then the entire preliminary card, Regis Muyambu versus Dion Bruning. Bruning is I think he's 5-0 in the UK. He comes out of the United Kingdom pro, excellent BJJ black belt, and we know what Regis has been doing. He's been just destroying in his division.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get Armand Skeppers on there. There are so many cool fights. New guys coming in.
Does the Dino Bagatti and Sean DeLange fight still?
Oh, how could I miss that? What am I doing?
Remind you.
Exactly. I mean, come on. I had Gordon telling me who he thinks is going to win that fight today. He was like, no, Dino, hands down. But you put the Lange in front of anybody, and he sucks this war out of them. He's like blood and guts. They literally just smash the hell out of each other.
But I see that if UFC 59 in May, apart from the breaking news that you've just released, that Leon and Martin are going to be on that card, it's completely empty.
Yeah.
What have you got coming up?
So the intention is to try and get the welterweight title fight going between Dricus and Henry Fadipe. I mean, everybody wants to see that fight. Dricus' condition is that if Henry messes up his visa again, that at least he's got somebody in the bag to fight. I mean, that's got to be a Cameron Pritchard. Yeah. Cameron Pritchard is the next contender in that division after Felipe, I believe. Yeah. So I would like to see that fight happen. Then we've got the middleweight fight that goes after, probably we're going to do that in Sun City at 61, try and get Yannick Bahati to fight Norman Vessels. Ooh. Man, that's going to be epic. That's obviously... Fantastic. We've got to do Chad Hanekom and Champion Dolce. That's the fight that has to happen at light heavyweight. Yeah. And that might happen at 61. And then also the female title fight between Jackie Tressier and Amanda Lino.
Wow.
It's got to happen.
Wow.
So we're going to do that in Durban. That's going to be one of the headliners on the Durban card. So there's a lot of fights that are happening and need to get done.
Fantastic, Graeme. That sounds a great season coming up on EFC. Can't wait for March the 4th. Here at Carnival City in Johannesburg for EFC 57. Graeme, thanks very much for coming in, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Simon. Awesome show, bro. Can't wait to see it.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
We often say that the way in which a fighter handles a loss reveals a lot more about them than a win. And 2016 was a tough year for Shana Power. So what does 2017 have in store for Titanium? My colleague Kumo Palumo headed off to Sunninghill to catch up with one of South Africa's biggest female MMA stars in a very personal and up-close interview.
It's a sensitive topic. About 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with pulmonary emboli, so I had 28 clots in my lungs, and I was admitted into ICU, and they said that I was lucky to be alive. During this time in my life, when my mom was driving to the hospital, Titanium, the song by David Guetta, had just come out. And she dedicated that song to me when I was in ICU. And it just basically represents that through all hardships, I've always overcome them. And so they gave me the nickname Titanium. And every time I step in the cage, it's another fight. And even though, I mean, it's a dangerous sport, as you know, so I'm constantly fighting for my life. I've been fortunate enough to take from every athlete in this gym, but I get to see the way Demar trains and prepares, and Boyd trains, and Chad, and So all these athletes I've been able to take what suits me in my camp. So physically, we train 4 to 5 times a day. Richie writes our program. We've got a set structure and schedule, and the system is golden. Like the way he's programmed it is just perfect for us. And in the mental side, it's the people that I surround myself with. So not only in the gym, outside the gym. I've got an NLP coach that helps balance me mentally and programs my body to assist me on the day. And my mom's in the esoteric side of things, so she also gives me certain mental coaching in a sense for the fight. My system has been that I'm not dehydrated for a long enough period in order for the clots to form. And that's every athlete in general. You don't have to have a history of it, it doesn't have to run in your family. Clotting forms from one of the main causes is dehydration, and another one for females is being on the pill. So those are things that relate to it. So me, now after having had pulmonary embolism, I've been taken off the pill. I'm not allowed to ever use it, which means my cycle coming around camp time or fight time is out of my control, and it's one of those things that we pray, but I've never been fortunate enough not to have my cycle during my week of cutting. So what happens is your body goes into storage, which means storage mode, which means it screws up the weight cut and the process of it. So what happened in Sun City was it was one of my best cuts leading up to the fight. My weight wasn't that high, everything was going according to plan. That day I woke up and my cycle started, and like I mentioned earlier, my body went into storage. So even though I was doing all the right things in the process of cutting, my body wouldn't release that extra bit of water because of the hormones. So I ended up cutting from 4 o'clock that morning till about 11 o'clock that day, and my body just would not budge. And in the meantime, even though my weight wasn't dropping, I was extremely dehydrated, which then left the risk of me having formed another clot. And the risk of a clot is that when you're competing, and if I had one, which none of us would have known, it could have shot to my lungs or my heart or my brain, which means I would have dropped dead. And there wouldn't have been a reason until after further studies. So the doctors called that, and it was quite emotional for me. You know, because if I had formed a clot, it would have been the end of my career. And it's these silly things that us as athletes do because we're so determined to make weight, to fight. You know, we literally dedicate our lives to the sport. And it was devastating when I couldn't perform and wasn't able to compete that weekend, which I've set my whole life and career about, is fighting for the EFC title, and I wasn't allowed to compete due to medical risks or health complications. So unless you were there, you don't understand what I went through and the emotional trauma that sits now in the body and in the memory. And the memory of the cells. And I felt like I let myself down, my team down, my family down. And what happens is you get into the state of having to fight again in order to validate yourself and to show people that you are who you say you are. And I don't think I had actually given myself the time and you know, to honor myself and allow myself to process what had actually happened. And it wasn't my first time that this has happened or nearly happened again. So I went straight back into camp thinking that, well, I'd prepared for Amanda. I just had to keep and maintain. And everything was going well and it was good, but the mental trauma of what happened, I was mentally tired, mentally drained in that camp. When I made, we had a catch weight fight, we had it at 60 kilos, even though it wasn't my initial weight, but just having that feeling of making weight was very emotional for me. And it was very overwhelming, and again I didn't realize how big that was for me until the day of weigh-in. And that morning I was very emotional, and yes, and then we made a decision based on emotion and not calculated. And when I stepped into the cage that night with Jackie, I wasn't switched on. When we were fighting, I didn't have my normal fire in myself and that desire to overcome and win no matter the outcome. You know, you're prepared. You always say, like, no matter what they bring, you're going to overcome it. I didn't have that in me. And I was on survival mode, and it's not me. It wasn't a true reflection of who I am as an athlete. And I was disappointed after that fight. Jackie was the better athlete on the night. And yeah, I was just very disappointed that I didn't get the victory that evening, and I lost to someone like that. And one of my biggest things I said as being an MMA athlete was, it always comes down to that night. And it came down to that evening, and she pitched up on the night. And it shows you that anything can happen in the cage. It's not, no matter what, the most superior athlete can always be beaten, and you're not invincible. Kirsty was, and I keep reflecting, it was just the most perfect fight. My spinning back fist was landing in that camp. So in that preparation with Kirsty, my timing and everything, when I was leading up to that fight, I got every single person in the gym with a spinning back fist, and it landed. Now you try to repeat that in your following camp, and it's not, but a spinning back kick, for example, will be landing in that camp. So it's very hard to mimic or to redo what you had achieved in that previous fight. So my biggest pressure, my biggest stress when I compete is just making sure I perform. And yes, obviously the victory is important. And my other goal was to be the first EFC champion, which I don't know when that's, you know, I don't know what's happening with the female division at the moment. So in FFM, you know, yes, it took a while for them to acknowledge me and to give me, you know, the time of day. Like Rich and I have a long history, and I was in the amateur class and he didn't even look twice at me, you know, even though I was asking. And I had to prove myself to him, but once he acknowledged me and, you know, I got his approval, things changed in the gym. And like I said, now I feel like I'm a part of the team. I feel very supported in here, and I feel like they treat me as one of them. Being who I am in the industry and being openly gay, I just hope that it gives people, you know, some sort of hope and allows them to maybe one day live their life to their full potential and be happy instead of living in, you know, in the closet basically, as everyone says. So yeah, I mean, I haven't had struggles, but that was my biggest struggle, was coming out to the people closest to me. But once I was supported and accepted, I haven't had any problems, and I'm proud to be with my wife and to, you know, be married to someone like her. So yeah, that's how I feel as an individual. People want to think that because you're in a male-dominated sport, you automatically get that title of being lesbian or gay. But look, Daniela's not. There's other women that are in the industry. She's married. She's very femme, she's pretty, and I think it's just the stereotyping of if you're gay, you need to have short hair and wear shorts and think you're a guy. It's not about that. I'm still the same person whether I be with a man or a woman. I just love my wife, and that's who I want to spend my life with. So that's just, people need to get out of that, and there's that stigma attached to it. Just because you have a sexual preference of being with someone different doesn't mean that you have to act a certain way. I feel like this isn't the end of me. I feel like this is only the beginning. I'm very young in my career, and the fact that I was at, you know, the title shot already says a lot. But like I said, winning the title doesn't define you as an athlete. These days are going to come when you win and lose, and you need to understand that if it's something that you love and you're passionate about, you need to take the good with the bad. Look, I am coming back. Don't know where, doesn't matter, can be anywhere. My MMA career is not over. This is where the journey is actually the hardest, and where you get to see the results in the cage. And I'm just taking the necessary measurements now to make sure that I perform the next time I step in the cage. Amanda and I, might happen, it might not. She's now apparently top of the pack in the female division, well then so be it. I don't know if we'll ever get that rematch, but you know, I lost to Jackie. If I get given that opportunity, obviously I'll take it. But there's no desire for me calling out anyone out. You know, that's when ego gets involved, that's when emotions get involved. You need to understand that it's just a person in front of you. You need to take the emotions out, and it's someone that's testing you, your character, your skill set, and your mind, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm a very family-orientated person. I would love to have a family, I just don't know when. It's that time in my career where travel might be around the corner, and I like to give 100% to wherever in different aspects of my life. So I don't want to be in a situation where I've got a child on the way and I have to go overseas and fight or travel, and I can't be there for my family. So I will definitely have a family one day. It is one of my biggest dreams, but I just don't see it right now with what's going on. I would like to make sure that I'm financially sound, make sure that my family can be provided for, and we'll take it from there.
Well, that's your lot for this week's episode of The Clinch. Don't forget you can get hold of us through all the usual social media accounts. If there's anything whatsoever that you want to share or you want to see, please get hold of us. Join me next week for more insight, features and interviews. Thanks for watching. Be good.